right. Today we are here with Ermis Sfakiyanudis. Took me many years to be able to say that. Don't ask me to spell it. Ermis is executive chairman of Uproar PR. I'm Catriona Harris from Uproar. So I thought it would be interesting today to talk to Ermis about how we all became acquainted. If you don't know, Ermis acquired Uproar last year from me and my partner. And it's sort of an interesting story of how he had been a client multiple times over the years and really had an interest in taking the agency to the next level. So welcome, Ermis.
Thank you, Catriona. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I think you were a client, what, 4 times?
Yeah, multiple times. So the first time was back in 2005, I think. You were living probably in San Francisco still then, right?
I was.
Yeah. So, and it was funny because the way I found you, we were Annapolis. I live in the Annapolis area, and that was starting to become a burgeoning tech scene. And you had a client literally 300 yards from my office. And I read a story in a magazine, and this technology was cool, but not that cool. And this story made it sound unbelievably cool. So at the bottom, it said, for press inquiries, call here. So I dialed the number and I got you guys. And I said, if you can make these guys look good, you're going to love my technology. So that's how we got acquainted.
Yeah, and then definitely over the years, I know we stayed in touch, and you held various C-level positions at different companies and started your own companies, and kind of led us over time to your last stop, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know 2 companies that weren't mine that I was an executive at that we worked on together. One was a music business and one was a salad dressing company, and we had great results for both of those. And then in late 2010, early 2011, I did another technology startup in the data security space. And Uproar helped us to get really great coverage. And by then, you and I had worked together so many times, we had become friends, and you guys were doing amazing things for us and getting us the kind of coverage that, you always hope for, and is especially, we were venture backed. So I had a board, we had investors, and it always lent such great credibility to be able to show them the stories that were written about us from a third party that was unaffiliated with the company. So it just gave that extra little endorsement that they had made a good decision in their investment, that they were willing to invest more. And it also helped them, because many of the investors weren't technologists, it helped them to be able to show prospective clients or referrals that they wanted to give us. If they weren't overly technical, they could just hand the referral a story and say, this is what I'm talking about. You need to talk to these guys. So it helped a lot.
So you're an engineer by trade.
I am, yes.
And I always say it's really hard sometimes to describe the results of PR to somebody with an engineer mind.
Right.
Because, you typically, from an engineer, you see they want it to be a science. If I do X, I will get Y. And I always say that media relations is an art, not a science. Right. So how did you know when you were in any of those various companies that PR was working for you?
So I love that question, because there are certainly things about the PR business that we have that we can point to that are definitive ROI producers. But the media relations piece of it is more of a soft science, maybe not full art, but there's definitely, when I was on the CEO side and making the decision about spending the money, I didn't know. It's sort of like a duck on the lake. You see them gliding across and it looks so effortless, and underneath their little legs are kicking hard. And that's what's going on behind the scenes in a PR company. You just don't realize just how much work goes into that effortless looking motion to get those stories written. I was probably like a lot of people thought, well, I hire a PR company and they just call all their friends in the media and they get stories written about you. But it's not like that. And, where I really saw the value and why I made the investment was because I saw the commitment to understanding our business and then really putting us in front of reporters that understood what we did and why it was important. And that's the most challenging thing. When you're a startup, you're solving a problem that the world absolutely positively needs, or you wouldn't put your life on hold and all your investment into something if you didn't really passionately believe in it. But the hard part, once you get going, is developing a value proposition that other people can understand succinctly. And where PR really helps is to force you to focus your energy. What is that value proposition? And get those stories written that then you can point to and say, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I meant. And it really does help you. And then it gives you that content that is so expensive to create on your own. You need people and you have to have your ideas and you have to have the time to really refine it. Whereas when you have a PR team on your side and you get those stories written, all of a sudden you're getting this content that maybe you wouldn't have even thought about saying it in those ways. So it's hugely helpful.
Is there any one moment at any of those 4 companies that you remember, like a highlight from the PR campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a company called eTelemetry, which was the first one that you and I worked on together. And we had a product that was honestly not particularly sexy in the grand scheme of news stories. We were able to monitor network traffic by individual. And so, how do you make that cool? Well, you guys came up with the idea to pitch a story that was during March Madness to be able to see who was using up all your bandwidth during the tournament, streaming games live. And it got picked up in the Wall Street Journal. It got picked up by ABC News. I mean, we got, bigger coverage than I could have ever imagined. And it was really not anything so much that the company was doing, but how we positioned that value proposition again to the press in a way that they understood it, that made it interesting to them to cover.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that. It was a highlight for me as well. So
yeah, that was a big one.
So you made the switch, right? You're an engineer by trade. You've been CEO, you've been CMO, you've worked in technology, you've kind of worked across the board.
Yep.
Now you own a PR agency. Why'd you make that switch?
It was something that I was always interested in. And, I've made the Hair Club for Men joke before. I liked it so much that I bought the company. But, there's some truth to that. I was always fascinated. Starting companies is hard. Taking an idea from a company from just an idea to building out a value proposition, developing marketing material, finding people that believe in you and customers and all those things, very, very hard. As you know, because you started this company from just an idea. And so I became really passionate about how do you really refine that message? There's always that quote, I think it's Abraham Lincoln said, I would have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. It takes real time and thought and concentration to develop something that's really easy for people to understand and succinct enough for them to take the time to pay attention, right? And so over the 4 companies that you and I have worked together on, that became something that I really, really took pride in, was developing those value propositions and working with you to message them properly. And so when you and I started talking and the opportunity came up to potentially acquire Uproar, I got excited about it. It's something that is completely outside of my engineering and technology lane, but I've really enjoyed.
Has there been one thing that's been most surprising to you?
Yeah, it's those little duck feet under the water that's the most surprising to me. I didn't realize how a good marketing and communications campaign done by professionals, how easy they can make that look and how hard it is to actually do in the background. You know, you think that, and it's human nature. When you start a company, you think all you have to do is tell somebody about it, and they're going to think you're the smartest, most brilliant person, and this company is the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody should buy it, and everybody should invest in it, right? But that's just not true. For most companies, I'd say 99% of the companies out there, there's a competitor, there's somebody that's doing it first, there's someone that's doing it faster, and you have to know how to differentiate yourself. And to the press, another thing I didn't really realize is how many pitches they get in a day and how sick of reading things in their inbox they are. So how do you as a firm stand out in that crowded space of noisy messages that all sound the same, right? If you're a restaurant, everybody has tacos. If you're a technology company, everybody says they're the most secure. So how do you separate yourself from the noise? You have to have a good story, good value proposition. You have to have a differentiating value proposition, and you have to have a team that is on your side that understands how to take that and get it to the right person at the right time.
So what's next? You purchased the company about a year ago. We've had a little bit of COVID since then, but
a little bit, yeah.
We've come through, I'd say, pretty well on that. What's your vision? What's next for Upwork?
Well, you know, I think the market is speaking to us. Media relations and the press side of things is our core. That's what we are, and it's in our name. It's the PR in Uproar. So that will always be who we are in our DNA. But we're also seeing that in order to amplify those great stories, we need to provide our clients with the best digital capabilities across all the social channels that are relevant to their marketplace and their stakeholders. So for us, we're really putting our shoulder behind growing our media relations team so we continue to get those awesome stories written and all that earned media, and then taking that content and really amplifying it out to the marketplace so people know who you are and how to get to you.
Well, we look forward to seeing the growth, right?
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, well, thanks, Ermis. I appreciate your time today.
That was a pleasure. I love talking about this stuff, so it's great.
Thank you very much.